Welcome back to LA Fishguys and Scott's big 500-gallon aquarium. Let's check in with Scott and see what he's added this week.
Again, talked about the quarantine tank. Happened upon a deal I couldn't pass up. Worked out a trade with somebody and acquired a 70-gallon tank. This is the sump that came with it. We'll have a little wet dry in there. It came originally set up for a filter sock, but made a little drip tray, a little shelf for the bio balls, and just throw a little wet dry underneath the tank. Protein skimmer, little Milwaukee 40 is going to run it, and hopefully we'll have a decent little hospital tank or quarantine tank as we need it.
Most hobbyists set up a 15, maybe a 25-gallon quarantine tank. This one's 70 gallons. So in addition to treating with medications, because of the spacious size, we can eliminate some additional stress.
So our protein skimmer's been busy. I cleaned it Saturday, and I'm kind of on a mode to figure out exactly how much it takes out in a week, and I'll figure that out this next Saturday when I pour it into a gallon jug. Been putting out some nasty stuff. To make sure that I keep the net clean, I've got this neat little thing. It's called a skim clean, and see, it's got a little squeegee on the end of it. Put that back in there. It also has a little hose that it picks up water in there and squirts water along the end of the squeegee, so that at set intervals, 15 seconds a day at 4:30, it will turn on and scrub the inside of the skimmer neck, and it really keeps the skimmer working real well. I've never had a skimmer that's produced like this. I have to say I'm very impressed, and that is by far the stinkiest skimmate I've ever had the misfortune of smelling.
Tell us, how's your Micron socks working out?
Socks are actually working pretty darn well. Obviously they're doing their job. We've seem to be getting about 10 to 12 days out of the socks. Every 10 to 12 days I've got to change it. I'm due for my second sock change any day. I guess that means any day we'll be at 24, 25 days since the major overhaul.
At what point do you think you'll consider taking out those bio balls?
Really, I could start pulling them out any day. We never did see any kind of appreciable spike as a result of the sump change, so I think that the bio balls could go out at any given time. I probably will start weaning those out with the next sock change, which I'll certainly do this weekend.
And how is the Chaeto and the algae doing?
So the Fuge has been doing extremely well. I have to say now, I think my Chaeto in the last 24 days is probably grown 10 times, or increased by about 10-fold. It started out with a small little, patch like that. I get in here every few days and, try to spread it out a little bit so that it gets maximum light, and as a result, it's growing like, dare I say, a weed. So hopefully there's some good value to the tank, and it's taking good stuff out. Obviously it's going to take a little while for everything to balance out, but we're getting good algae growth now in the sump. Certainly hasn't eliminated the algae growth up top, but that'll take time.
And have you been able to monitor nitrite and phosphate levels?
I have not tested my phosphate levels in the last week. I probably ought to do that. I was thinking about that today, but I have been monitoring my nitrates, nitrite, ammonia. I've seen a drop in nitrates, nitrite, and ammonia is pretty much non-existent, and for the most part has been non-existent.
And what other items are you contemplating adding to this system?
Gosh, only other thing to do is get my old ozone unit back up, and I've got this old calcium reactor that I acquired, and I'm going to basically turn that calcium reactor into an ozone reactor. It's a dual-stage unit, so we'll inject ozonated air and water into this thing. It'll have a biomedia in it, and it'll create the biomedia will act as a mechanism to keep the ozonated air in contact with the water for a longer period of time, and then that water will go into the next chamber that has carbon in it, or will have carbon in it, to then remove the ozone from the air and the water, and that'll be returned to the tank. So ozone will be the last thing to add. Unfortunately, I can't fire up my UV, let alone use the ozone, until I'm done with my ick treatment. I'm dying to turn this thing on, but gotta wait. So another week or so.
So tell us, after adding all this equipment and such, and after the fish have recovered or recuperated from the parasite issue, what is your plan as far as the future of the tank, more specifically the aquatic inhabitants inside the tank?
Well, it's certainly going to be a reef tank. I'm not going to have a lot of hard corals. I don't really plan on doing much in the way of hard corals, although the future always changes. I like soft corals. I like the natural movement. Couple that with fish, I think, you know, I'll be very, very happy. You know, a decent variety of fish again, as well as a decent variety of hard or soft corals rather, and maybe some hard corals in there. But fish and soft coral is going to be my primary focus, and invertebrates.
Now, did you discuss with us a calcium reactor? I know you talked about it, using it as an ozone reactor, but what about a calcium source?
Well, we have our old calcium reactor here. I've had it for a long time. It's not. I've used it on the tank once before. So, yeah, that's always a very good possibility. You know, it's going to really boil down to whether I need to, and chances are it'll be plumbed into the system. How often it gets used, I don't know. But I did pick up some pH probe ports so that I can mount that in there in the event that I plan on using it. And knowing myself, I'll get bored one weekend and have to plumb something else, and just so Jim can make another episode. So chances are it'll wind up on there in the near future.
There you go. Scott's continuing episode of the 500-gallon aquarium, which is now turning into the Reef Aquarium.
So be sure to come on back for the future parts 10, 11, and 12 as Scott adds more aquarium technical goodies to his system. Interesting that as you increase the plumbing, it might just make it easier to stop up the drain. So be sure to check out the addition of the quarantine tank and Scott's own man cave.
This could become the frag propagation room or something?
Probably not. I don't see that. I don't want to keep it. No. But then again, God knows I put my foot in my mouth all the time. Part of the eyes me getting mounted up on the wall back there. The water tanks over here. Then some shelving. And hopefully that's about it.
Insulation and a nice recliner with a bunch of books and